Are you gonna join us?
Yeah, I didn't realize the
You
time.
didn't realize.
All right, so we are back from lunch. It's 1:30. Tracy Kiesel, DUI Task Force Annual Budget Report Plan Golf Tournament Decision.
I'll open this up as chairman of the DUI task force here in Broadwater County, and Wynn is our co-chair. This is Tracy Kissel. I think everybody knows this by now. And I'm gonna kind of turn everything over to her.
Okay.
Smile.
Thank you. So I gave you guys the full packet, the annual plan, the meeting calendar with the dates, the member contact list, the budget, and then our golf tournament proposal. But let's start with our annual plan. And our fiscal year is July 1 to June 30th. And so our 20-page plan here starts with a state overview and some data. Data for us, crash data and this type of data is always at least a year behind. So the most recent data you can pull is through 2014 for a lot of this information. And so on page 4 is the Department of Transportation's new safety vision, which is Vision Zero. And that is 0 deaths and 0 serious injuries on our roadways. This has changed from years past. We always had goals of reducing to certain amounts or getting down to certain amounts, and that vision has now gone to just a straight 0, being that we don't want anyone dying on our roadways or being seriously injured. So the Broward County DUI Task Force will support the Department of Transportation's Vision Zero Safety Initiative. And then just some more data, statewide vehicle occupant fatalities and impaired driving charges and convictions. Second and subsequent DUI convictions are on the rise statewide, from 834 in 2002 to 1,175 in 2013. And then on to page 6, the alcohol impaired driving fatalities. That's just a piece of information that I pulled right out of NHTSA's data that's available, and that's ranking Montana versus the best state or the U.S. as a whole. And our alcohol impaired driving fatalities have always ranked one of the highest nationwide.
Hey, Tracy, can you tell me why it looks like the numbers were going down and then now they're going up, the 12 and 13?
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts as to why?
I can give you my thought and then I'll let Wynn chime in. I think when you look at data this way, you could look at it a couple of things. Either we're doing a really good job and data goes down, or there's a good chance that law enforcement agencies aren't fully staffed and there's less law enforcement on the road. And when you could tell me if you think that could be.
There's a huge part of that right there, and obviously with some of the things that we've talked about on numerous occasions is the law enforcement across Montana right now seems to be more reactionary versus proactive like we were back in 2012 and 13. Obviously the increase in the population, the increase in the traffic. Highway Patrol's down 27 officers, I think, in their agency alone. Obviously in our office, we've changed from being very proactive, being out there, to being very reactive to what's going on with property crime and everything else. And so I think just as the years go by, you see a difference in the influx. The other aspect, I mean, we have, this year is last year was pretty significant amount of DUIs as well. We get at least 1 or 2 every week right now here. I think so you're going to see an increase again. I think it's just how things kind of go. Economics kind of playing into that as well. And so I think that's staffing and just overall objectives of what we can do is gone down. So Most of our guys right now are spending most of their time on criminal investigations versus being out on the roadways trying to do a proactive traffic stop, so.
Also, have the way they've reported changed in those 2 years? Are they more efficiently reporting, or, I mean, is that also part of this equation?
The number of complaints?
No, as in getting information from where it needs to come to substantiate these numbers.
From the local level up to the state level.
Yes.
Where we're getting our information.
And it should be a smoother transition by now, I would think.
So I guess the question I have is before, 2010, the reporting wasn't as effective as it is in 2013.
Yeah.
So does that play in this sense of rise, or do you think that these numbers back here in 2013 better Matt? I mean, you understand what my
Yeah.
question is?
I think part of it, I think honestly, is just, I think depending on, you have a high year in '93, that means there's a lot of people affected by drinking and driving. And I think that's with anything, is that you have, when you have a high influx of people being killed on the roadways, there's still 229, that's 229 families that are affected. And that really gets people kind of in that spot where like, hey, let's be a little more cognizant about our behavior. And then as time goes on, we revert back to our old behavior again. And so it's not gonna surprise me, and we're at 50, or 60, I think we're up to 62 deaths already this year on Montana highways. And so when you see that, even though it's publicized on reader boards out on the highway, people aren't slowing down, they're not. I mean, I think the Billings Gazette had three vehicle fatalities this weekend. So I think that's just, it's gonna be that norm again, is that we had a lull and lots of enforcement there and brought it down, but then I think it's gonna go right back up, so.
And our change in numbers could be from training. We're seeing our law enforcement better trained and going to more training to recognize DUI and do those roadside testing. So that's gonna play a role in it. It's always gonna change. But if we keep going through this and just get right to, starting on page 7 is county data. So right into page 8 for countywide data, that first chart there, and then right below it for the 2015, 14, and 13, it has really changed. Things have gone down for the most part here in Broward County. I mean, on page 9, just at the top of it for 2013, there were 49 DUIs in 2013, 23 in 2014, and 11 in 2015. And then for the other alcohol violations, which are your open containers, your MIPs, and your providing to a minor, there were 28 in 2013, 11 in 2014, and 0 in 2015. So it'd be really difficult on paper for us to pick that apart and see where that decrease comes from. If it's just from people are doing less of this activity, or like I said, if there was less law enforcement out and about.
Also, it could be due to the grants not being there to do those.
From the overtime.
Yeah.
That's needed.
Yeah.
Definitely,
And
definitely.
Because we,
that gives a grant.
if you look at the MIPs, one thing that we all know is still going on.
Oh, for sure.
It's just the fact that you don't have the grants for the overtime hours to get the troopers out there.
Right.
It's just one of those things, and how do you remedy it?
Right.
Well,
So-
and they've changed the behavior too, though. I mean,
Well-
they're going inside versus outside anymore, except for Confederate, and that one's still a nightmare.
Right, so go on to page 9. This is where our alcohol-related fatalities and our seatbelt-related fatalities go way up from 2013 to 2014. And then the preliminary data for 2015 is already on the rise from that too. So page 10, your severe and fatal alcohol and drug impaired driving crashes went down from 2013 to 2014. Winter versus summer months. I think in general, people think that more of our crashes are happening during our horrible winter months, when the data shows that they're happening on our clear, dry, summer days by more than half. And then male versus female on page 11, we've got 2/3 of our males in Broadwater County causing the fatal and serious injury crashes. And those are your 26 to 40-year-olds seen in that bottom graph on page 11.
And the females in county. You commissioners need to import more females.
So then on page 12, we start our students, our 8th graders through 12th grade data. And what you see, the first graph for drinking and driving in Broadwater County, for 8th grade data, the amount of students who are drinking and driving went down from 2012 to 2014. And this data comes from the YRBS, which is the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, and the Montana Prevention Needs data that the students self-report every other year. So they take it when they're in 8th grade, 10th grade, and then 12th grade. So 8th grade drinkers and drivers has gone down, 10th grade has gone up, and 12th graders has significantly gone down. Then riding with a drinking driver, 8th grade has gone up, 10th grade has gone up, and 12th grade has gone down. And then that second graph is pretty interesting. It's the question was asking them where they get their alcohol. So, the first one, the other, I'm not sure what other falls into, but then that second one, getting it from a party or a keg, those are your 12th graders and 10th graders. You've got 8th graders who took it from a store or a shop. You've got your 12th graders who say a stranger bought it for them. 10th and 12th graders get it from another relative. 10th graders get it at home without their parents' permission. And then the next one, getting it with their parents' permission, which look at the number of 10th graders who are getting alcohol with their parents' permission. Pretty high. All 3 age groups are getting it from brothers or sisters. 8th graders primarily are getting it from someone under 21. And 12th and 10th graders are getting it from someone over 21. And not as much fake IDs as what were prior to 2014.
You
That's
can-
gone down.
For the, do you think that's because of the server training?
I think it's probably the server training, and I think it had a lot to do with the SRO at the school, the Udall grant that used to exist. For sure. But that's interesting data that we've got kids getting it at home with their parents' permission and getting it at home without their parents' permission. So we've still got challenges here in Broadwater County. We've still got refusals, recidivism, low risk perception of conviction and prosecution. That's changing. We've still got a problem with underage drinkers. We've still got some illegal alcohol sales, and our most recent compliance check resulted in 4 failures
Out of 13.
Oh my
out of
gosh.
13, which hasn't been that high for years.
Well, yeah, I don't think we've ever.
2 of them actually looked at the ID and still sold. And it was it's a vertical driver's license, and it says not 21 until this day, and they looked at it and still sold, so.
Yep, so I'm hitting that pretty good in the alcohol server training class, talking about looking at the ID and making sure you're looking at the ID for all the things that are on there. We've still got some issues here with seatbelts and the lack of seatbelt use, so we're always working on that. Our goal has not changed, and that is to reduce the number of DUIs, reduce the number of fatalities and injuries in Broadwater County. So the rest of the plan is basically the same, and that's because we built this plan a couple of years ago with a lot of information in there and a lot of strategies and methods to encompass all the things we want to do to get to our goal of 0 injuries and 0 fatalities. We've still got policy and legislation that will support enforcement, prosecution, adjudication, and training. And then on to page 17, our education, awareness, media, and intervention. And there's lots of things in there, lots of times a year that we're gonna support or do more education or more enforcement. A lot of the national mobilizations and state mobilizations that we support and try to function more through. So that's our plan. And then the next pages that you have, the meeting calendar. We have met the last Wednesday of every month since the task force started years ago, 3 to 5 here in the courthouse. It changes in November and December just because those days fall too close to the 2 holidays, which we just go to the 3rd Wednesday instead of the last Wednesday. And then our member contact list is there, and we can always use more members. It can be stressful to have the same group of people trying to pound the pavement all the time, so we can use more folks coming to the table with a new perspective or a different perspective. And then our budget. So the budget that we have here, the fiscal 17 year budget, is estimated. And that's because June 30th is the end of our year, and we're not sure how much more we're gonna spend before that. And so that'll affect our cash on hand or our carryover. And then the reinstatement fees are always a guesstimate, and those are based off of how many DUIs there are, how many people who actually reinstate their license. And then that reinstatement fee for the estimated House Bill 132. That number is not going to change, and that number is a little surprising to us, but that's our allotment July 1 from the passing of House Bill 132. And then our contributions and our RAS classes are always estimated amounts as well. So down under our expenditures, those are gonna change this year. Last year, we got an extra $10,000 from House Bill 132, and we can't expect that this year. So all of our expenditures have significantly gone down. And I anticipate that come July 1, we're gonna need to get back on your calendar with a more accurate of what our carryover will be.
Okay.
And see how that changes the budget when we get closer to seeing where we actually end for fiscal year 16. And then the next page that you have is our night golf tournament. And we have tried to have an annual DUI task force golf tournament every year since way back, and the weather always seems to dampen that event. We actually pulled it off once, and we've shifted to trying to have a night golf tournament. It's never happened here in Broadwater County, and maybe it'll bring out some folks that'll have a good time and spend a few hours with us. But this would be a fundraiser for us, and this would be the fundraiser that we can use that money to put back into some of our youth activities. that we'd like to do that don't quite fit, what the state statute says for reinstatement fees. And spending time with our youth to change some of the data that we've seen in our plan. That's all I have. John?
I think you did a good job.
Win?
I'm good.
That's why you're there. But Tracy works hand in hand with the Department of Transportation in there. And I think she does a whale of a job for not only us, but for compiling all the statistics and looking into the data to kind of forward our DUI plan here in Broadwater County. And at this time, we're just asking for your blessing again and your signature on the page.
Looks like a good plan. All we need to do is vote, and we can sign it.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and sign the Broward County DUI Task Force Plan fiscal year 2017.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to sign the Broadwater County DUI Task Force Plan fiscal year 2017. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Commissioner Meehan.
So I brought just some
Oh,
signature pages,
wonderful.
so that you guys can keep one, and our plans are due June 1 to MDT, so we will have that in on time and be one of the task forces that
Don't get hollered at for not having a plan.
You're good.
Are you good?
I'm not standing. Go back and move it.
No, you can't. We need
See
to
you
go
Wednesday.
back 40 minutes, if you have.
See you Wednesday,
Yeah.
just spread the word later.
So, now then, do the three of you play golf? We need some team.
Oh, yeah.
Nick
Well, I was
must be-
gonna ask you about that. If we can go with high score wins, I'm in.
I know Nick's
No,
got
I-
some clubs.
I was just thinking, we have a
I
group
would
of
love to.
beginners, so maybe we'll last to be last.
Last year when we tried this, the school,
So I only
the
need
school
one,
team,
if you guys.
oh, we're gonna come out and beat you guys, we're gonna come out and beat everybody, and then we had to cancel it.
Oh,
It just didn't work out last year, so in talking with Corey Bacham, the one thing that he suggested this would be the best way to go with this date on the, that's why we went this way.
I think it looks like a lot of fun.
I think it'll be a lot of fun. We've already
Yeah.
ordered the glow-in-the-dark items, which should be fun.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, more importantly than, you know, the winning and that type of thing is making sure that the community knows that we're here and what our efforts are and that type of thing.
Are you guys going to the conference this year?
I went and.
How was it?
It was fantastic. A couple of our other members at the last minute were not
Don't
able to
believe me, I was
go.
near.
Unfortunately, me being the only person that goes,
It's tough.
it's tough for me to come back and, because the way those conferences are set up, there's so many tracks. And with my focus being occupant protection, it was hard for me to get in on the alcohol-related tracks. And so, it's an expensive conference to go to, and maybe next year we can send someone, or maybe we'll have to revisit every other year, kind of like we've been doing. But the information that you receive at those conferences, like you know, Nick, is just by far what you can get locally or even statewide. You're really exposed to the experts and the latest and greatest. And so,
Which is why we need some more members, so we
You
can
bet.
have a broad
Group.
spectrum
Yeah.
of people that are willing to go or that can go. I mean, I was willing to go and one thing or another, but then when it was, I was on transit from Arizona, which
Sure.
probably be there all the time.
so there's a couple of, I mean, taking teens again would be ideal. That would be a goal for us moving forward, is trying to figure out how to get some more teens involved with us. and then taking them and mentoring them to these conferences and these places that exposes them to things they can bring back. And I really want to shoot for 9th and 10th graders, so that they can stay with us for a couple of years.
Right.
Because we took one, a couple of years ago, and then, then they move on.
Graduated.
And we need to keep them around for a little bit longer than what we have. So, I can tell you that Broadwater County has been one of the DUI task force has been one of the task forces to look at, when you're talking about junior members. Broadwater County and Jefferson County were the first two counties to have junior members, and it was talked about at our statewide DUI task force meeting that more task forces should be looking at that, trying to mold our replacements.
Sure. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys do good work.
It's tough, and I think like John said, we've got to find more folks in the community.
We just need to get some more involvement, is all.
Sure.
And as we discussed with it'd be nice if there was some way we could get somebody back over.
At the school.
Yeah, because if you're seeing that something's going awry between 8th grade and 10th grade,
Yeah.
somewhere between 9th and 10th grade, we're having a clear issue. And somehow,
And Tracy and I talked about it, whether it's those sophomores just getting their license and most of them getting a car and one thing, and just spreading their wings. And
Sure.
testing everything out. That could be one of it, but we need to figure out how to reach them and try to keep that down if we can. And that would be a big step if we could get an officer back in the school. If there's some other grants coming up or that are out there that maybe somebody doesn't realize, and one thing that I don't know, might be something we need to look into a little bit.
yeah, I don't know if Yule has come back around.
Not that I'm aware of.
They're working on it. They've written another grant that's kind of the same or parallel, and the focus is gonna be on prevention more so than reaction. So,
Will it be all underage still?
not necessarily. The focus is more on everything. We're focusing on, prevention. 'Cause that's the place everybody thinks you can make the biggest bang for the buck. Even though you won't see it today,
That's why that's why we go in and have lunch with those kids.
yeah.
You gotta change that environment and go in there, they know who you are and they get excited to see you. And, Grant's only 2 times a month, but, like Dusty and Mason, they're pretty good about getting out of the car and walking through the school in the morning. And that all comes to changing that environment. So,
Either one of them would be good. Just a matter of being able to pay for it.
Right. And, sitting in on the school board meetings and things like that, it's just, everybody's making cuts. I mean,
They are.
and that was the SRO was that when that got cut, the school just couldn't afford to pitch in anymore. And that's why it went by the wayside.
Actually, Broadwater County's kind of in a better spot because if you look at some of these other counties, they're thinking about cutting some of their sports programs and
Yeah.
everything new because they have to make cuts somewhere. So where do they do it? That's usually the first thing to go, rather than academics, which is a good thing. I'd rather see the kids in academics than, they need their sports also, but you can cut out some of these sports.
Right.
I mean, when I was going to school, girls, no girls basketball, I've never heard of that. So now you've got to have, boys
Boys
haven't
still
still
use the template, or still a template.
Hey, I go to school on a dinosaur island.
How do we get Dare back? I mean, what's that gonna take?
A lot, yeah. The schooling alone is honestly, and all the trainings that, in just speaking from my experience, that was the most intense training I've ever gone to. So you find the right person to go do that training. But now all the trainings are either done in Seattle or back east. They don't offer DARE training anymore in the state. So it's out of school, it's out of state training.
Do they have to be an officer?
You have to be an officer, yeah. It is strictly for law enforcement.
How many schools have it?
Oh,
Yeah.
I have no
In the
clue.
state.
I think most of them.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't think Three Forks does. but it might be just one school.
Helena, I know every school district has an officer in Helena.
They have the funds.
Well, yeah.
And
you're
maybe
talking
we
about-
look at using their officers. I don't think that would be out of the question.
It'd be like bringing in a drug dog. But that's something that the school would have to work out with Helena PD
Or the county.
or the county.
But
But,
if someone's already
yeah.
trained and.
But that, so to add a new officer, and Wing can attest to this, is you're finding the right person to stick in that school, the right temperament, they're able to do all those things. And then two, sending them away to that, it's a 40-hour training.
So not only the cost of that, but having them out of their position.
Mhm.
for
Well, that, no,
amount of
that,
time.
yeah, well, being out of the school for a week or two, that's not the issue, but one, to get them, you know, we've had 2 different SROs, and Nick would spend all day over there. And then as the school started not to use them as much as they did initially, then he'd be over at the office more, because the school kind of changed for a while there, their mentality changed over there on what they wanted Nick to be doing. And so, if it doesn't fall within their privy of what their goal and mission is.
Seeing that going off of what Wynn said, you know, for a while it was just, we need you to help cutting down tardies or incidences, okay, and that wasn't the idea behind school resource officer. They were to educate and to point out areas of issues, you know, within the school, safety issues, things like that. But for a while, when I first started, it was more of a compliance officer. And so that's why when the school pulled their funding out of SRO, we went ahead with the DARE because it was just education. We were there playing on the playground, doing those things that the SRO should have been doing in the first place. But instead, the DARE officer was able to be in there educating. Because honestly, right now, if you were to go, when we're to stick someone over there, I know for a fact that there's 4 teachers that would take it in right away. They give up without a shot, with the right person, would give up their class time, an hour a week to do education. But that's part of the thing too, is getting in and having the right person where the teachers are comfortable giving up that very precious class time because they're held to a standard for the state testings and things like that. So, you know, the 4th grade teachers played a huge part in the successfulness of that DARE program because they wanted it just as bad as I wanted to be there. So without them, the program would have died.
Yeah. It was 4th graders year after year.
Mhm.
It was a good program.
And DARE, and honestly, DARE's not it is, but the main one is 6th grade. That's 5th and 6th grade is that area. But because now you get into those regulated hours that the teachers have to teach, 4th grade teachers sopped it up with a sponge, and they loved it. Where when you got into those older grades, you're taking away from precious time that they have to teach their kids, and it's just tough. So there's a lot more into it than just sticking someone over there,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and because you have to be on, you know, and having Marvin, you know, part of it and on the school board, that helps a little bit, but you're still playing into a lot of different entities.
Which makes that makes it hard. Ever since Dakota was killed, I've pressed and tried to get the Alive at 25 program some way, shape, or form. And with the superintendent and principal over there, we've just run into a stone wall. And the counselor, I'll be honest with you. Those 3 people. And I personally think it's something that needs to be addressed to those kids.
Sure.
Especially, you take a look at the sophomores, you look at the statistics and one thing.
Oh, yeah.
We need to address that. But how do you get the school board and the administration there within the school to agree to have something like that. And then, on top of that, once they agree, we have to coordinate with the Department of Transportation and one thing to the instructors to have it out here. And it is expensive. And it's not just for the kids, it's up to that age group of 25. But the thing of it is we need to hit these kids right there when they're getting their driver's license.
Right.
Here they are, they're set out there with a new car or a car, and they've got their driver's license, and as the data shows, they're apparently doing a lot of drinking right there in that area as sophomores and one thing and another.
Right.
And as they get a little older, they get a little smarter, I guess, maybe get away with it, I don't know. But I don't know the answer, but I would really love to see that
Sure.
some way, shape, or form, but I don't know how to do it. You just kind of run into a wall over there.
Yeah.
They don't want nothing to do with it. They want, to be honest with you, so far, the administration, at least was in the past, the superintendent, the principal, and the council, they want to sweep that under the rug as if it never happened. You know, rather than try to get these kids to realize that that can happen. It has happened, and it's gonna happen again.
Right.
And it just bugs me that they just wanna try to forget it, sweep it under the rug like it was a bad dream or something.
And I think, you know, with some of that too, I'm just thinking, you know, different ways to approach that, you know, is maybe approaching the driver's ed teacher and going through it that way. Getting him to buy into it would be, if he buys into it, then he can go to his bosses along with you guys. And not saying that you haven't tried that avenue yet, but, you know, it's,
Is this the same driver's ed teacher?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think they've got a new one, didn't they? Which we haven't, I don't think, well, I know.
And I
Yeah.
think,
But-
and I think they're actually, if I'm not mistaken, from their last school board meeting, I think they're in the process of hiring a new driver's ed teacher.
Well, the last one, I know the last one, the principal was over there and the counselor, they talked to the driver's ed teacher, and he wanted to just keep it right at the freshman level, when they're first coming in there. And personally, I don't think that's where you wanna do it. You wanna hit these kids a year or two later. Let them get their feet wet with being drivers. A lot of them know how to drive and one thing, but let them get their feet wet with the instruction and one thing and another of obtaining a driver's license. And then when they get that thing and they feel that power and one thing and another is when you need to hit them with all this other stuff, I think.
Yeah. Well, that too, or just take it where you can get it.
Well,
Yeah,
but he didn't.
because our backup plan is, or our other method of doing that is just to operate on a weekend
Right.
or in an evening.
And no one's gonna show up on the
Outside.
weekend.
No.
I mean,
But he's-
you're talking kids.
He wasn't, the instructor, the driver's instructor wasn't, he wanted to teach it, and it's not something that he can teach.
Right.
The live at 25, it has to
Yeah.
be,
It's only taught by the Montana Highway Patrol in the state of Montana right now.
so,
So it's a coordinated effort,
Sure.
it's just,
but it's something that
we should do it blank.
we're looking
Well, no,
at. And
yeah.
that's probably a conversation
Lose
with
one, just
Marvin for a little bit.
Keep
see-
going.
Well, and
Check it
Marvin,
out.
Marvin's supposed to register for that RAS training. Because there's no way he can get done, so.
That'd be good.
So
Yeah.
he's supposed to sign up for that, so.
Okay.
No, I think what you guys, I mean, I've always been a big supporter of you guys anyways, but.
You know, there's a spot on the member list.
I know, I probably,
Let's see, where is it?
probably should get on there again.
I think so.
Oh,
I
look,
think
Laura
that-
came
I
once
think
in a
that
while,
we-
but you
there's lots of
could.
space.
I think that we could use you.
Yeah.
Well,
That would be
Food for
great.
thought.
Food for thought. Well taken.
Make note of it.
That's right.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you.
we thank you for your time.
welcome.
Thanks, you guys.
I know you guys are very busy, everything else that goes on in the county.
So is this one of your junior members here?
No, this is my daughter Amanda. She
Oh.
had to ride with me.
Right on.
She's taller
We
than you.
need some junior members. We need junior members. I know one particular young lady in here says,
Oh, she's pumped.
She's a freshman this
She
year.
is.
Oh, look at that.
Nice.
I mean, like tomorrow, we're taking drinks for the 7th and 8th grade
There you
dance. So there's just
Yeah,
those
she'll
small
be
things
there.
that we're still trying to find little ways to get to those.
That's a pretty good class too. A lot of good kids in that class.
There is.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll see
See
you
you
guys.
Wednesday.
Yes.
Thanks, you guys.
you'll
And
see
we're
us.
having our annual barbecue Wednesday, so you guys are all welcome to come out to John's house Wednesday evening for dinner. Families,
Nice.
right?
Four
I'm gonna
thirty.
send, I'll send out an
We
email this
We
afternoon.
invited them last year, but nobody showed up.
Families too.
Huh?
3 to
DUIs at
5
3
is
to
the
5.
meeting.
And then at 5:00, 4:30, 5:00, we have brats.
I'll
Brats-
send an
brats and
email
beer.
out,
Just half of that, 50%.
50%.
Okay.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you much.
Let's go.
All right, anything else for the good of the order?
No.
All right, so we are adjourned at 2:16 PM.
Actually got stuff done today. Feel good about today.
Yeah, I do too. I really appreciate your leadership.